So for a while now on the channel, I have surmised that Buggy is going to end up being the biological son of Rox D. Zebek. His name now being Rox D. Buggy, which sounds like Rox the Buggy, which is very funny. But in that being said, I think Cross Guild has the potential to become the new Rox Pirates, just given that Mihawk and Crocodile are a part of Cross Guild at this point, and they previously were very large figures in the world. And as you may know, the infamous Rox Pirates was made up of figures who then became large figures in the world. So I guess you could say Cross Guild is the Rox Pirates in reverse, because you're gaining people who already had a significant reputation, as opposed to gaining people who were prominent but hadn't really come into their own as world powers just yet. Because Big Mom was still early on in her career. She was gaining territory, but she certainly wasn't as big as she is in the current story. So the Rox crew really did boost her up in that. And of course, Kaido was a very big local legend in a way, I guess you could say, but he wasn't a huge deal like he is in the current story in which he's a Yonko. So with that being said, I think Buggy's crew, Cross Guild, is a reverse of that, because it's collecting people who've already made a significant name for themselves, and now that's just further boosted the reputation of the organization as a whole. With that being said, Rox had 3 prominent female members on the crew: Charlotte Lindland, otherwise known as Big Mom; Buckingham Stussy, not the clone of Stussy, but Buckingham Stussy; and of course we have Clarissa, who was a Empress of Amazon Lily. I think we're going to get trappings of these females in Cross Guild, or at least very similar traits among the female members in Cross Guild, because I think between Perona, if Perona does join Cross Guild with Moria, I think she and Alvida together are basically Big Mom. Because what does Big Mom do? Well, Big Mom is a gigantic woman with an enormous amount of super strength and physical durability that has a very hacks ability in which she can make very strong familiars, right? Perona is half of that, because she is one who can make very prominent and very effective familiars. And she is basically the first character in the series that introduces us to the concept of Dofus being able to make familiars, because the Hollow Ghosts can do a lot. Not as much as homies, mind you, but they do a lot. They have the whole negative effect thing on people, but they also act as cameras, of which Perona can see through all of them. And we get a lot of information on that during Thriller Bark, in which it is called the Ghost Network. So yes, in that way, Perona is very useful and very hacks. But the other half of this is Alvida. Alvida, from the start of the narrative, has shown to have a considerable amount of strength. She could have gotten stronger after all this time has passed. We don't know. But to me, at least, she seems to be the physical aspect of Big Mom, because she is a tall woman. Not as tall as Big Mom, but she's only 6 feet tall. But the fact that she is a tall woman with a considerably large amount of super strength makes that a notable thing for me to say she is the other half of Big Mom. Now, I will say, admittedly, Alvida is one of very few characters in Cross Guild that do slip through the cracks, because it's because of Cross Guild that Alvida is getting this boon of reputation in the world. Though it should be noted that at the start of the story, she was making a name for herself in the East Blue on her own. And it is through her initiative that she decided to hook up with Buggy in order to take down Luffy. So she was guiding the alliance. She was the trigger that sort of put all this into motion, upon which Buggy just starts weirdly recruiting characters that we've met already. So you can thank Alvida in a way for Cross Guild even being a thing, because she set that in motion during Buggy's cover story. So with that being said, even though her reputation wasn't as big as Big Mom's at the start of her career, In the equivalence of where things were at that time, I would still say that she was making a name for herself. Things are just a bit more inflated now, thanks to the scope of where the series is currently. However, with that being said, it is quite interesting that Alvida works a bit in reverse to Big Mom, because Alvida, where she starts her career off, she is a corpulent woman who then becomes slim thanks to the powers of the smooth fruit, right? And two, even though she had quite a bit of inherent super strength, much like Big Mom, she didn't have the endurance. But thanks to the slip fruit, she has one of very few fruits that make a person kind of invincible, as she's immune to all sorts of mundane damage like bullets and swords and whatnot, right? However, the reason why she's a bit the reverse of Big Mom is because Big Mom, at the start of her career, when things really got rolling, she looks like a tall, curvaceous woman wearing a very similar outfit to what Alvida is wearing currently. However, when she becomes a superpower, she becomes corpulent, much like how Alvida is at the start of the narrative. So in that way, the two do parallel. And two, I guess you could say, on the Hack's ability bit, Alvida does have quite the powerful ability because she is immune to most damage. So like Perona, the two pair very well with Big Mom in the ability department. Now, when we talk about Stussy and Clarissa, things get a little complicated because I think the equivalent to Stussy is going to end up being Vegapunk Lilith, because I don't think there are many places for her to go. So like I've said in other videos, I think she'll join Neomads, and then Neomads gets incorporated into Cross Guild, with her being the Stussy equivalent for Cross Guild, which is the reverse of the Rocks Pirates, and much like going with the theme of having a reputation and then joining the organization, Vegapunk, of course, has a reputation of being a very brilliant scientist, and we know Lilith is Vegapunk, so that works out very conveniently for this explanation. The reason why I think she'll be the equivalent to Stussy is because Stussy, too, was a part of Mads once upon a time. So this will be sort of a reverse of that. She is a female member of Neomads, but she's also Vegapunk. So in a way, she's an equivalent to Stussy while also being literally Vegapunk. So that's how I think that will work out. However, I am aware that due to the recent events in the narrative, Vegapunk Lilith is setting up base on Elbaf, but due to the plot kicking off now and the Holy Knights being a presence in Elbaf, it could become a bit of a sticky situation, which requires her to uproot her lab yet again. So I'm not entirely sure if she'll get to stay in Elbaf and tend to Kuma. It may lead her to fly the coop after the plot really gets rolling in the current events of Elbaf, but we'll have to wait and see. But continuing, which brings us to our final comparison, Crocodile. Now, we know that Crocodile was once involved with Ivankov in some sort of way. We don't know what way, but considering that the first things we see Ivankov do is perform Death Wink and convert the gender of a man into a woman, it is very likely that Ivankov did some hormone shenanigans on Crocodile, turning him into the character that we see today. With that being said, it's also very interesting that over the course of the story, any young version of Crocodile has been obscured, which leads me to believe that Crocodile was once a woman. It doesn't help either that in the gender swap sketch of all the warlords, Crocodile is first in the lineup. So I don't know what that means. But seeing as how, too, even though the culture on Amazon Lily is that strength is beauty, I could imagine that somewhere along the line, Crocodile got the face scar. The face scar leads him maybe down a spiraling path to wanting to become a man because it became a symbol of his weakness, perhaps, in losing to Whitebeard, presumably. However, with that being said, the interesting thing about the timeline of empresses on Amazon Lily is that it goes Glorissa, Shakuyaku, then Tritoma, followed by Boa Hancock. So I'm proposing that Tritoma is Crocodile. And it's interesting because we know that Hancock in chapter 522 became the Empress 11 years ago. And we know too that Hancock and Crocodile have a 15-year age gap between them. So there's not much difference in age between the two. So I could believe that once Tritoma faked her own death with the excuse of the whole love sickness thing, she went off and became a pirate, perhaps enthralled or mesmerized by Glorissa's previous career as a pirate, and she wanted to go do that for herself without being tied to the country. So she selfishly went out and did that for herself, got beat by somebody, got the face scar, then defeated and worn down, met Ivankov, and then became Crocodile. At least that's what I think. Especially if the depiction of Crocodile as a child is a misdirection, or it's there to further emphasize how much of a tomboy Tritoma was in her youth. Perhaps that's the reason why. I don't know. I'm just putting things out there. But with that being said, what's also very interesting about Tritoma is that her name comes from a flower with the same name, and said flower is usually depicted in being orange and yellow. Crocodile's color scheme includes primarily orange and yellow, especially when you consider the pre-time skip in the Alabasta arc. He's wearing an orange shirt and he has this big golden hook. So yeah, orange and yellow. But on top of that, what's also quite interesting is that when you consider Kuja culture and the usage of snakes and panthers and hawks, but primarily reptiles and being snakes, that Crocodile's organization is the only original warlord organization that primarily uses animals to that degree. Everyone else, it's either a caveat or they don't use animals at all. Look at Doflamingo, no animals. Look at even Jinbei, even though I wouldn't consider him having an organization, he doesn't employ animals. He can summon animals, but he doesn't employ them. The only two organizations that have animals in that high of usage are Hancock with the culture of the Kuja and Crocodile with Baroque Works. Because in Baroque Works, he has a lot of reptiles specifically. He has the running lizards. He has the Bananawenna. He has the express Bananawenna. He has the turtle, Banshee. So there are quite a few. Plus, he has a mammal and a bird, much like the Kuja pirates. He has the Unluckies, which are an otter and a vulture, much like how the Kuja have a hawk and a panther. So it's just kind of interesting how much these two parallel. Also, warlords don't really wear gold that much. Hancock and Crocodile are the only ones who wear significant gold items. Hancock with her earrings and Crocodile with his hook. I'm just saying these things are interesting. The only other warlord who kind of has a gold motif, but it's not really the main point of the item, is Mihawk's Yoru. But again, it's noted for its black blade as opposed to its golden hilt. So I really wouldn't count that. But it's just an interesting thing that there are so many parallels between Hancock and Crocodile for assumingly no reason at all. So with that being said, yeah, I do think in the future it's going to turn out to be that Cross Guild is inversely the Rocks Pirates. But with that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede Watson.